And we're live for the Toronto Open post show with Andrew Cabalin. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm good, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing great. So you are in I'm in Mexico. You are in Canada right now.
Yeah.
This was a virtual event. So tell everybody how you did.
Well, it was my third NASCAR virtual event of the year, and I won first place in my traditional forms division, and I won the 30 and up overall grands. And that's actually my only for the virtual tour, but also in general, it was my only grands for 2021 because I only started competing live at Diamond, so I've only been doing virtuals all year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have noticed that you've done uh, a lot of virtual tournaments, going from NASCA virtual tournaments, sport martial arts virtual
Yeah.
tournaments, just because you have the bug for competing. So, what was that transition like, being able to be so active on the circuit and then just it all being taken away, especially you coming from Canada with those restrictions of traveling?
It was really hard for me because I'm used to getting on airplanes every weekend, going to tournaments, and for that to be suddenly taken away was actually kind of heartbreaking. 2020, I was actually just taking some time off from NASCAR. I was only doing tournaments here and there. Actually, my main goal for 2020, believe it or not, was supposed to go to Madrid, Spain for the WKC. But when that was taken away, that was actually very heartbreaking because I was looking forward to that because it was actually going to be my first WKC tournament where I was going to enter 18, 35, and 42 in my respective categories. So again, I was just denied that opportunity and hoping I get to do that next year. Either WKC or whatever's out there. So I just want that opportunity to be able to compete again. And I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Diamonds as well as Miami this year. And yeah, I'm just glad to get back on the mat again. And unfortunately, they made an announcement today. It might be a little bit harder for me to travel again. Although I am planning to go to Chicago and LA for the first two NASCAR tournaments of the year. But we'll see where that goes because again, because of the variant, they're planning to put some more changes in. So we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping that nothing changes because I really just want to get out there again.
So for the people that aren't aware, what are those changes now with the new variant and the hoops you would have to go through to get to the US from Canada?
Well, right now they actually loosened the restriction a couple weeks ago, and basically, we don't need to take a test to come back to Canada if we're gone for less than 72 hours. But that might change in the next couple of days. So I'm just hoping that there are no changes because right now people are slowly starting to compete. Back in Miami, there weren't too many Canadians. There was only three of us, I believe. I believe it's just me, Eric Tremblay, and Sam Gagnon. But as you know, as there's looser restrictions, there's supposed to be more Canadians, but if they're going to tighten them up again, there might be just an absence of more Canadians again. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. But like at the present time, right now, nothing has really changed. Actually, it's a little bit better. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. So I also was looking forward to that Madrid tournament as well, and it was heartbreaking to see it go away because of COVID. And you said that this would be the first tournament you would be able to compete in all those age brackets. So a question I had for you was, what's your mentality competing against 18-year-olds, as well as in the 30 and 40 plus division?
Well, long story short, I want to compete as many divisions as possible if I'm going to be traveling that far to compete. But at the same token, I also like the added challenge that I get to compete with people that are a third of my age. So when I compete in 18 plus, and then I can still I can still hang in the top five. I'm doing something right. But like I said, it just adds the challenge of for me to improve my just improve myself as a competitor. But I also like to do the 35 plus or 30 plus and 40 plus in NASCA, simply because there's great competitors in those divisions as well. In
Mhm.
fact, right now looks like it's pretty packed. So there's a lot of talented people in those divisions. We got Sam Diaz, Edgar Cordova, just to name a few. Again, myself, Eric Tremblay. Those divisions are packed. So those divisions add challenges as well. But I mean, there's a lot of challenges in the 18 plus as well. Like I said, I just like to compete as many divisions as possible, just to get more mat time in, basically.
Is there something specifically about the 18 plus division that you train and gear your competition for when you're competing against those guys?
Yeah, basically, it's hard to keep up with those young guys because they're a lot faster. But at the same token, the way I compensate for that is I do train to be more powerful. So, like I said, it does provide the additional challenge that I require to grow as a competitor. And based on the depth of those divisions, there's a lot of talent in there. You got my teammate Mason Stoll, who's number one guy in the Japanese and the traditional challenge divisions right now. So he's on top of his game. So, competing against young guys like that, keep me on my toes. So that's why I just
Mhm.
like doing those divisions. And like I said, for myself, being able to do multiple traditional divisions, I get to run different katas in each division. And for me,
Mhm.
that's just part of me growing as a competitor and as a martial artist. So I just want them
Mhm.
more opportunities to compete.
Right. Especially because if you travel all the way from Canada to another country, you're paying, um, or someone is paying, because I know you're on team top 10, for you
Yeah,
to compete. Uh, you want to get as many reps in as possible in that environment of competition.
right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how, mhm. So
Yeah,
how
go ahead.
did you, sorry, how did you get involved with the Toronto Open? I know that you said that you've been with them since day one.
Well, yeah, I've been attending that tournament since the first year. I believe it was 2002, and then I've known Mike for well close to 30 years now, if not 30 years. And
Mhm.
as basically, I was just waiting for the opportunity for NASCA tournament to return to Toronto after I believe it was 19 years. And then one of the reason why I got involved the way I did is because the 50 and over people have a grand championship in NASCA, but they're not getting any money. So I just want to step up to the plate there and just give back to the sport and reward those who have been around for a very long time. The idea of actually having the 50 and over grand championships was actually brought forward by guys like Rocky DeRico, who's been around since I've been competing as a kid, as well as Brian Kulafung. And then when they introduced the 15 overgrands, I was a little bit taken aback that they didn't offer anything for those guys. So, I decided, I'm not only am I going to give money for those guys, but I'm going to make it a lot bigger. So that's why I awarded the overall 500 to the overall 15 over men and women forms and weapons a winner. And
Mhm.
I've been doing that. Well, I only got to do it the 1 year, but it's something that I will be carrying out for every year for the years to come. And I'm probably going to extend my sponsorship as well um, to some other divisions. But yeah, that news of that will be coming shortly.
S- t- Nice. We'll have to wait for the announcement for that news and what those divisions are.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will be exciting news. Um, I know that you've been doing martial arts for so long. Can you tell everybody how you got involved, what the origin story is for you?
Well, I think my origin story is quite cliche. I mean, I was actually talking about it with my grade nines today because they asked the same question: how did you get into karate? And with Cobra Kai coming around, I had to explain to them. Well, I got into karate because I saw the original. I saw the Karate Kid. So when I saw the Karate Kid, I wanted to take karate, and sure enough, the style I started off with is the style that was depicted in the movie, which is Goju-Ryu. And then
Mhm.
over the years, not only did I study Goju-Ryu, but I actually studied with a relative in the art of Shorin-Ryu, and that's actually where I got my black belts in. So that's basically the story behind that. And I started competing. I started competing in 1988, but I started doing the full NASCA tour starting at the end of 1991, and I've been doing it ever since then. I've taken years off here and there, but in terms of me to continue to compete, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one out there from my generation. Myself and Terry Kramer are pretty much the only ones that have been around since the 90s, like
Yeah.
continuously. So
And
yeah,
competing actively, as
yeah,
active as you, and being staying with the changes in style
yeah.
or the types and forms of competition that you see are winning, just staying so relevant in the sport as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I heard, I forgot which competitor it was, but it's basically evolve or dissolve, right? You have to take a look at the trends, whether it's traditional or open, whatever is, what is winning. Okay, that's what you need to adjust yourself to, right? Back in the mid 2000s, I was doing the performance based traditional forms, so to speak, or the open traditional forms. But over the years, I transitioned to the more classical WKF style of competition katas. So again, it's all about adjusting and accommodating to the trends and whatever the judges are looking for, basically. And I think that's part of growing as a competitor and as a martial artist.
Mhm. How do you mentioned you're one of maybe one or two people from your generation still competing. It's one thing to have martial arts be your lifelong passion. It's another to continuously compete.
Right.
How do you keep that sustainability? How do you keep that drive for competition for this many decades?
Um, for me personally, it's one of those things that if I'm away from it, I'll start to miss it, and then I wind up getting back into it. There have been years where, if I take off or, I just get tired of it once in a while, but then I watch it. I watch it online or I'm seeing results. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, what I want to do that. So I think right now, one of the motivating factors again is just being able to go out there and compete. Number one. Number two is just to see people. For example, I haven't seen any of the NASCA people since Diamonds in 2019. So to see everybody
Mhm.
again after 2 years at the Diamonds in 2021, it was great. And even though the results I had at that tournament weren't to my satisfaction, getting to see everybody and seeing everybody happy at that event, was more than gratifying for me. So, there's just a lot of factors, both social and in the competition itself, that gravitate me towards that. Also, every single year, I try to have some goal in mind, and I try to make them different. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for 2021, because in terms of NASCA titles and things like that, I've won it several times.
Mhm.
What kind of motivated me to get back into it this year is the fact that they introduced the Black Belt magazine rankings, and
Mhm.
speaking to Jackson Rudolph, thanks to Jackson Rudolph, there he was able to push that through and have the senior ratings as part of the Black Belt magazine rating. So when I saw that, I'm like thinking to myself, I don't have that yet. So that's something to work towards to. So that's why right now, that's what I'm gearing for. I'm hoping to be back in the top five at least by the middle of 2022, because that's something just to strive for, because that's a title that I don't have. So yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm looking at.
So that was your 2021 goal, the black belt. I know you were rated in the black belt magazine. Is that
Yeah.
also now to go up from, I believe you were five to one in
Yeah.
2022?
Basically, yeah, because because I wasn't unable to compete until October, so I wasn't able to place in the top three or whatever place it was. And then when they put the ratings together, they put myself and Eric Tremblay in as the fifth position, because we were still active on virtual, but we just couldn't get on. We couldn't go to Atlanta or
Mhm.
U.S. Open. So again, now that we can, and it's a little bit easier for us to travel down there. That's my main goal. And I also started doing weapons again, which I haven't done since 2018. So to get back and do that again was quite refreshing, because just getting out there and doing something that I haven't done in a long time. Okay, it's just a rewarding experience to just get out there and compete in weapons again.
So, as a student in high school, I remember competing very often and having to tell my teachers to please send me the work. I had to find a loophole about absences. I would have to unfortunately say I was sick because karate tournaments were not excused. You are a teacher, and so you know the struggle both of the student and on the other end of it. How do you manage your daytime job with being a ninja at night, as your Facebook bio says?
You know what? It's all about time management. It's something that when I teach my students outside of the books here, I always tell them the importance of time management. Do the things now that you can't do, because otherwise you won't be able to do it later on, right? So when you as much time with all the free time you have, use it. Optimize it. So you look at something like, I don't know, like 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. All these kids are on their phones, playing on apps and things like that. That
Mhm,
30 minutes you can use to condition yourself to train. When I look at 30 minutes, for me, that's 12 katas I can do back to back. So that's the way
mhm.
I look at it, right? So being able to utilize that time and to use it and just to optimize that. I think that's what makes things a little bit easier for myself. What makes it a little bit harder is actually just the traveling part, because I have to schedule around a couple of factors. For example, I usually fly out late Friday night.
Okay.
Luckily, I have no. There's a lot of straight flights to a lot of the places I go to, but that's that kind of gets harder as you get older, right? So what I've had to do in the last little bit is I actually have to take requests for those days off, which they're luckily my employer, they're very flexible with that, because they understand that what I'm doing is it's part of professional growth, right? So they're always willing to hand those days off. They're unpaid, of course, but like I said, it's a good thing that I have a supportive staff that know that I actually do this. So it's made things a little bit easier now. So, but
That's
yeah.
no, that's great. I mean, but just so 30 minutes thinking about how you can fill your time. 30 minutes, that's 12 katas. That seems like it can be tiring doing martial arts, teaching. What do you do to give yourself some free time to breathe?
Um, to be honest with you, I don't have that much breathing time, but especially now with we really don't have any downtime during school hours because of all this because we have an altered schedule right now, so it's really hard at the moment. But like I said, I always take the time out just to give myself some space, be just space from other people, and because I don't like to be distracted, especially when I'm in when I have a competition mindset, because I just like to focus on what I want to do for the competition. I know what routines I can pick from to compete with. So there's a lot of things that I like to do just on my own, I just totally remove myself from other people. In addition to, I try to keep things in balance. So on the weekends that I'm not competing, I'm also DJing at a lounge. So that's just something that I just do completely just to get my mind out of everything. So it's sort of like my escape from teaching as well as
Mhm.
karate, and just not so I don't get sick of it.
Yeah, okay. So I know my last question for you is I know that AKA is the next in-person tournament. You performed very well at the Toronto Open. You won grands.
Yeah.
What are the adjustments that you need to make to be ready for AKA, that big tournament of first tournament of the year?
The main adjustment I have to go with right now, because I haven't done back to back divisions in a while. I just have to work on my stamina to go from one division to another. So when I do weapons and then do forms right after, I have to be both physically and mentally prepared for that. One thing that kind of threw me off in the first tournament last year at Diamonds was the fact that it was the first tournament and God knows how long that I wasn't a seeded competitor. So it was a
Mm.
pretty stacked division for at that tournament. We had 12 people, and I had to go up first. So that was nerve wracking, right? So um, I'm hoping that I don't have that same problem at AKA, because I believe I will be seeded. But just in case, I have to get prepared for that, because if I'm not mentally ready when I'm called to compete, that's a problem. So
Mhm.
that's also something I also have to work on when with upcoming AKA. So, and I know, since it's the first tournament of the year, and I know just from past years that my division is going to be big. I have to just get ready for that. Just know that there's going to be some heavy hitters in there. Like I said, I believe my entire division will be there at that tournament, so I have to be ready for that.
Yeah. It's gonna be a stacked division. It's gonna be a stacked
Yep.
tournament. It'll be fun
Yeah,
to watch.
for sure.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on the Power Chat series, and congratulations on your win
Thank you.
at the Toronto Open.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.